been with us for almost 14 years. She was the first person I hired after I came 14 years ago, and I couldn't have had a better person to work with all these years. So we want to share with you three main points, and we hope that they will mean something to you because you may not have heard them, or you may have heard little bits of them, but we really want you to hear them today. First of all, Family and Consumer is probably the department you never heard of, if there's a Department of Cooperative Extension you never heard of, because most people know 4-H, they know Master Gardeners, they might know farming. Family and Consumer has been around just as long, but originally a lot of people saw it as sort of homemaker issues like home economics, but that's not what we are. We've come a long way since then. We're human ecology, making sure that people can live and thrive and enjoy their lives, and that our communities are better places for us to live in and thrive in. So in our department we have three sort of main subject areas that Linda mentioned to you. We have parent and family issues, food, nutrition, and wellness, and financial management issues. Does that mean anything to you when I say financial management issues, considering today's economy? It's a tough time for our families in financial management. I'm going to get back to that in a second. I want to start with making a point about what we do at Extension to try and help decrease the burden on taxpayer dollars. One of the programs that we have is relative caregiving, and that's where someone takes a child for whatever reason that child's biological parents cannot take care of them, and the relative will instead. It might jump to mind, oh, it's probably drug abuse or incarceration. Often it is. But it's also very often in the instance of death of the biological parent, or military service, or extended military service on the part of the biological. Now, you may be aware that at the state level, a lot of money is being cut from the foster care system, and there's an increased emphasis on getting children into a relative's home, and there's much better outcome for that child if they're placed with a relative. Now, that's not always an easy situation. Relative caregivers do not have the same rights as a parent. They do not get a lot of assistance. They often have to use their own retirement and any other income to raise that child with very little benefits. We and our programs help connect them to resources and improve the family situation so that they can be a successful family unit, and especially that child can grow up to be a productive, healthy, and well-adjusted adult. Now, what we do is help decrease the taxpayer burden because we're helping families to no longer need Medicaid and food stamps for that child, but to become sustainable units. And we're also able to help decrease the foster care costs, which are enormous, especially in New York State. So we're helping to decrease that tax burden at the state level by offering local programs that help families improve their own well-being. That's relatives as parents programming. The second area we wanted to talk about, and Nancy works with these programs as well, is the financial management program. A few years back, for many years, we received about $60,000 to $70,000 in county funding to provide financial management education. We do not provide money to people. We do not provide social services to people. We provide education, which means we help them figure out how to be wiser with their money and pool their business together and start doing it the right way. Savings, building an opportunity for investment, making wiser decisions about employment and retirement. And that's the kind of thing we do. When the economy tanked, we started getting between 7 and 11 calls a day from people needing financial management assistance. In 2011, we lost all county funding. And we had to tell 7 to 11 people a day we cannot help them. It's extremely difficult to hear those phone calls, I can tell you. People crying, losing their homes, filing for bankruptcy, not knowing where.
It's like a train coming by right now.
Good, I can breathe. Now, we at Extension are not sit on your back and cry, sit on your bottom and cry kind of people. We wrote grants. One thing that we do very well. Linda mentioned that we are quasi-governmental, but we are also a nonprofit 501c3. So we have grant writing and grant making abilities. So we wrote a lot of grants, and we've replaced that $60,000 and more, with a couple of grants from the United Way and a couple of other small sources. That's great, right? Go Extension. No taxpayer dollars from the county base coming into our program, and we've brought in more money to our programs to serve Dutchess County. However, with grant writing, there is a drawback. But if grant funder offers money, they offer it to you for what they want to see done, right? And sometimes that matches. What we see and hear from our county residents matches what a grant funder is offering. Great fit, we get the funding to provide the program. But it does not allow us to fill in for those gaps where services are needed and there is not a grant source to do it. And one of the great resources that Extension has traditionally been, and it's part of our mission, is to determine what our local residents need, use research-based information and professionals that are on staff to meet those needs. And in our community, there are some serious financial management education needs being unmet, because the grants that we receive are to work specifically with youth. Great, it's a very effective program. Specifically with adults in transition. That means people who are transitioning, let's say, out of domestic violence shelter and into the community so they can manage their finances more wisely, out of substance abuse rehabilitation, out into the community. Definitely important to teach them financial management, work with them in that area, and a number of other special circumstances like that. But those 7 to 11 phone calls that we received, we are not. And right up until May, even though we have the message on the phone that says we no longer have funding to provide this, we're still receiving all last year 7 calls a day, all this year up until May 3 to 4 calls a day. And so even though they know we can't provide these services, people are still calling. That doesn't mean that I'm saying to you, take funding from somewhere else and give it to us. I just want you to know that we are out here fighting to meet those needs still. We just wrote another $150,000 to $200,000 worth of grants to try and bring more services in to help those families that need it, the education to help as to how to turn things around. But I want to encourage you to consider Cooperative Extension as a partner in figuring out what does your community need. Because we are the ones who are put here to assess that sort of thing and to engage with people and to find out what the needs are. We don't mind if you want to buy services from us. We will try to provide those services to the best of our ability. But also remember that Extension is a resource as a quasi-governmental agency for you to use for information gathering and to find out what your residents are needing that you're representing. The final thing that I want to share with you is about our nutrition program. And I want to use it as a point to explain to you sort of the 2 different facets of what Extension does here in Dutchess County. One is education, working with an individual and say helping you to make better choices in your nutrition. Although I've talked to you before and I know you make some pretty good choices in your nutrition. But maybe you have some goals. Oh, that secret late night snacking doesn't. Maybe you have some goals or you don't even realize what's happening that's causing the problems in your lifestyle. And we have programs to come and meet with you individually and help you do that. One of them is SNAP Ed. It is not food stamps. It's the education component of food stamps that was written into the original Food Stamp Act in 1974. Many people don't know that when you got food stamps, you were supposed to be taught how to eat right, so you bought the right things with those food stamps. Money didn't go into the education component initially. It came years later, but we provide that education. The goal of that is to first of all help people eat properly with their food stamps, but to eventually help them not need food stamps anymore because they're making better choices, eating healthier, saving food dollars, getting sick less often from foodborne illnesses, and so forth. So we do that individual education, but we also do systems change and education. And that means we come out and we work with environments where things are happening. Because we can educate a person how to fish, but if they can't get to the fish, is that going to work? So we're out there working in our communities to make it possible for them to do the things we're teaching. So in schools, put healthier vending machines in. We can teach the kids how to eat healthy. They go to the vending machine and they don't have those choices. It's not going to work. So we do a lot of system change in schools. In communities where zoning decisions are impacting the health and well-being of our communities. You may be aware that McDonald's were put into small towns a few years ago in Dutchess County. One in Dover, one in Millerton. Do you know that the obesity rates from that moment increased rapidly, and now 1 out of every 2 children is morbidly obese and getting there in those 2 small towns? And that's because low nutrition, ready to eat, cheap food was put into a community where few other resources resided, and people did the natural thing, used it. It's cheap, edible, easy. What we try to do is work with communities to help them see what are the choices they can make to improve the health and well-being of their residents instead of diminish it. Okay? One of the areas we did that in recently, over the last couple of years, is summer feeding program. Do you know that each of the schools is able to receive reimbursement if they provide lunch during the summer in low-income communities? In 2007, only 8% of the kids were receiving these meals in Dutchess County. That's a lot of outside money that could be coming into Dutchess County that was going to waste, if you think about dollars. And it's a lot of children going without one nutritious meal, which is what many of them get. One nutritious meal a day, going without it in the summer. We have taken that, which was around 15,000 meals, that 8%, and it's now at 57,000 meals and growing. Now, we started out with just a couple of sites in Poughkeepsie. We've spread that to 9 sites in Poughkeepsie now. It's also now spread to 5 sites in Beacon, and we had our first rural site this year up at Weebatuck School District, where a community partnership is providing the meals, and the school's getting a reimbursement. Okay? So we helped create an opportunity for the kids to be healthier, the community to be healthier, for money to come into those communities and our school systems. And that's a different type of education than working with people one-on-one. Finally, we do want to share one of our examples, because it means a lot to us, about one of our direct education. You might say, yeah, educating people about nutrition, yeah, that'll kind of save dollars, but really it's a long-run kind of thing, right? It's a long-term kind of thing. Maybe we'll see benefit down the road, but the way healthcare costs are increasing, we probably won't even see that benefit anyway, right? Well, last week, Nancy's going to help me because we might not get through this. Last week we found out that a man named Mr. G passed away. Mr. G was our first client 14 years ago. Do you want to tell about Mr. G at that time?
He was morbidly obese, very depressed, living in a senior citizen housing complex, and through my nutrition education interventions, I was able to really connect with him about healthy lifestyle. We talked about trying to walk more, some of the choices that he made. Of course, senior citizens, it's difficult to get to the store and sometimes even to prepare meals. So we talked about some simple meals that he could make that would be healthier, more nutritious. And throughout the course of about 3 or 4 months that I spent, I started to see improvements that he was making. He was walking more. He was getting more engaged with the exercise movement program in the senior citizens complex.
And a couple of background details that Nancy and I would talk about in determining what approach to take with his education. Mr. G was, as Nancy said, morbidly obese. He had high blood pressure, heart disease. He had just been diagnosed with diabetes, which is a combination of something we call metabolic syndrome, or syndrome X, you might have heard of it. Mr. G could only walk on 2 canes, if that, to get around, and he was quickly approaching wheelchair bound. Mr. G told us that he really just wanted to die. He was 69 years old, very young in my opinion, and he wanted them to either hook him up to an IV and not feed him again until he lost the weight, or he just wanted to die now, because this was not living. He was on Medicaid, receiving Medicare, food stamps, and social services. By the time Nancy was finished with him, he only needed 1 cane. He had already lost weight. We don't focus on numbers, so I can't tell you how much weight he had lost or had ultimately lost. He was laughing. He was leading a walking group at the senior center. His diabetes was coming under control. His hypertension was coming under control. And that's after only 3 to 4 months of working with Nancy. When Nancy came across his obituary last week, it was column long. This man had been a chief of an Indian nation in his lifetime. And he had had so many attributes that were astounding that we were in awe just reading it. And when we realized it, that 14 years later, he passed away, I said to Nancy, you had a big part in it. Imagine his lifespan if he had not met Nancy and stayed on those 2 canes in that wheelchair with the frame of mind that he had adopted at that time. Okay, gushy, heartfelt, right? Imagine that he no longer needed food stamps, social services. He was actively leading others in life change. And he lived a productive 14 years instead of an incapacitated 14 years. And that equals dollars to anyone that needs to look at dollars. That's just our first client. We have seen, gosh, times 14 years, we average anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000 clients a year. Do the math. Any questions? I'll take that
I
as a
think
good
we all
sign.
need a pause on a big breath. So,
We have a lot of fun too, by the way.
and we will have, like I say, we got one more place to stop and 2 different conversations for 2 more programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me have
Sorry.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will point out before we walk down to the horticulture building, this year we launched our Friends of Extension program, which is seeking out supporters. It's like an annual appeal thing, but seeking out our friends who are willing to contribute dollars